January is a slow month for music, but perhaps this lack of pace can be alleviated by the Scottish rockers Mogwai and their 11th album, Bad Fire. You know, when I was pursuing the latest album's releases and saw this band on the list, I had one of those, I haven't heard of these guys in ages moment. In fact, the first and last time I tuned into their music was for their 2008 release, The Hawk is Howling, with its iconic opening track, I'm Jim Morrison, I'm Dead. And it's not by any fault of theirs, of course, that I didn't continue further. After all, I thought that album sounded great, but for whatever reason, I guess they flew under my radar. I suppose that's what happens when you're part of a niche genre known as post-rock with atmospheric elements. It has a cult-like following, but it doesn't really have the numbers and perhaps never will like other niche genres, such as dwarf metal or pirate metal. But then again, these styles are more famous for their memes more than their music, and in particular with post-rock, it has endured for decades, as opposed to those other genres that I mentioned, which may be dead in a few years. Anyway, I decided to dive a bit into their back catalogue before listening to this album, and I checked out their first record, Mogwai Young Team, which is perhaps their most highly acclaimed record, and that album is pretty awesome. So heading into this one, I had a bit of high hopes despite the near 30-year gap between that album to their newest. But from a surface level playthrough, you can hear the similarities. However, there are also nuanced differences as well. Most of the tracks off their first album feature very long extended pieces, however this newer record has a runtime that is under 60 minutes for a change. And of course it has 10 tracks on here, and most of them seem to be within an acceptable song length duration that is about 4.5 minutes, despite the music that is on offer for the album. But true to the course, most tracks are still instrumentals, and they do sound rather dark. This might be due to the fact that in recent times the band have faced certain difficulties. Certain band members have had to face the loss of friends and family, meanwhile band member Barry has had to change his lifestyle to adapt to his daughter's serious illness. Now, while I can't say the following with certainty, so if any others want to correct me here, please feel free to do so, it does feel like this album is certainly more darker and somber in tone when compared to their previous record, As the Love Continues. And it's certainly an interesting departure from, of course, the namesake of that record. Now, I've been reading people describing their music as shoegazer type of sound, and I would certainly agree with this, as it really does contain those signature qualities of the genre. They still retain their sense of dark humour with their song titles, in particular on the track Pale Vegan Hip Pain, which sounds hilarious, or Fanzine Made of Flesh, but then it is grounded with song titles such as God Gets You Back, or If You Find This World Bad, You Should See Some of the Others. This record certainly contains moments of sadness, which is echoed through on pieces such as the aforementioned song I just mentioned, and its lone guitar intro builds up over its runtime, until we get to that distorted synth section that almost becomes ear-piercing at times. It seems to be one of those more nuanced pieces that, despite having no lyrics, feels heavy with the message conveyed through their music. And of course, the song title is certainly an interesting description into, I guess, what the mindset of the band might be. It certainly seems to be that way from the outset, as we are glancing into the band here with a thin slice of emotion, and it becomes quite crushing to get a glimpse into that. Speaking of soul crushing, the album's artwork was done by Dave DLT Thomas with its limited colour palette, and the album's namesake also being a Scottish reference to hell. It's a rather stark comparison again to their previous album's title, and I would love to hear some fans' views on this matter. As for the music, personally I can't say there's anything particularly wrong with this record, and in fact it does sound quite good in a weird, dark kind of eclectic way. Excluding one song in particular, I couldn't say that any other track stood out amongst others, as they all do sound fairly similar in a kind of concept piece kind of way. However, this would not be by design, but rather by the style that the band plays to. I certainly believe that this record is going to require a few more listens to truly comprehend it, and it certainly sounds like one of those records that you can start to listen to on a long drive. However, unfortunately, these type of records don't tend to stand out in any particular way either. Again, this is where I look back to the niche genre that this band is, and how easy it is to fall on one's own sword. Yes, the record may sound nice and is pleasant as driving music, but it is barely separated by a few degrees to white noise. It's almost like this genre should be called driving noise, because it doesn't take away from your concentration, but the record does keep a noise flowing that doesn't really engage you either. And I'm sorry if this sounds like a negative, trust me, I don't mean it to be, but I'm just trying to make an objective point here. So I guess what many might consider this to be a backhanded compliment, I'm actually feeling rather receptive to this effort, so let's get to the score. Overall, I give this this album score of 7.5 million chilies on the spicy scale. My favourite track's been Fanzine Made of Flesh. If you think this world is bad, you should see some of the others. And what kind of mix is this? All things considered, this is still quite a solid score for a band that I haven't paid much attention to and their style they offer. There is no doubt in my mind that many fans of the band will really enjoy this record and what they have to offer, as it still retains their older elements while still showing off a few newer flares. Anyway, as always, be sure to listen to this album and make sure to tell me your thoughts on it or your favourite tracks, and as always, you stay spicy out there. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.